Hey everyone, in this episode we have a gentleman on by the name of Adam Banks. Adam is in fact an interventionist. He has a heck of a story that he comes on and shares with you, but if you are a family and a loved one that is maybe in need of an intervention, maybe you have a son or a daughter or a spouse that is addicted in some way, shape, or form and you need an interventionist, or at least you want to start exploring those options, this would be a good episode for you to listen to. He walks through step by step what this process should look like to ensure that you get the ultimate outcome, which is getting your loved one the help that they need. So enjoy the show. You ready, Ben?
I'm ready.
Ready, Adam?
I'm ready. Is there like intro music or what's that?
Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Benjamin B.
What's happening, everyone?
And we also have a fella by the name of Adam. What's up, Adam?
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate being here.
First things first, thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, whichever one that you choose to use, and thank you for watching on YouTube. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, Tom at... Oh, Ben, did you hear that?
I did. I caught that. Let me correct Tom here.
All right, go ahead.
Info at realrecoverytalk.com.
Info at realrecoverytalk.com. You know, there was about 320 episodes of saying Tom at realrecoverytalk.com.
Ben at realrecoverytalk.com is still up too. So
that's just the smack talking email.
Yeah. Again, I reiterate like the last episode, if you want to talk smack on Tom, please just email me and I'll put him in his place.
That's where I should email that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
So again, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, or if you would like to discuss your current situation with us, you could email us, info at realrecoverytalk.com. And we want to help you turn your mess into your message. I got rid of the mess to message thing that was behind me.
Oh.
Remember that?
Dude.
Change, Ben. I'm all about change. You know, I put the water buffalo somewhere else. Now I put my fish here. I'm all over the place. I don't know what I like. I don't know what I want.
I know what you like.
What?
You like bugging me, mate, with all these changes.
Well, what do you think? Would you rather the water buffalo or the
I want
dolphin?
it back the way it was. Mess to message.
Well, that ain't going to happen.
All right.
So, Adam, thanks for coming on, man. Really appreciate it. Full transparency, Ben mentioned this. When did you set this up? 2 weeks ago?
Like a month ago, right?
Month ago?
Probably a month
something
ago.
like that.
Yeah.
You want me?
Yeah,
Let me give the intro. So, Adam and I, we became acquainted over the phone we had a couple of clients come to us, and Adam does a lot of family work. He's an interventionist, and you could correct me on any of the other roles that you play, but he does a lot of really dynamic family work with the families, helps the addict, alcoholic, get into treatment, find resources, stuff along those lines. I'll also throw it out there, this discussion, as everybody knows that listens regularly, is going to be very organic, but there's just so many directions on the top of my head that this can go. With that being said, I'll throw it out there. Adam has written a book called Navigating Recovery. If you're on YouTube, I'm holding it up. But Ground School, 12 lessons to help families navigate intervention and recovery. And I admitted to Adam, I did not read it all the way through. However, I did skim a lot of it. And I was telling Adam before we started, the thing that I really appreciate about it is it really simplifies a lot of like the intervention process, stuff along those lines. I think for Tom and I, we're so second nature at doing this stuff that having something tangible. And Adam did a really good job in the book breaking it down. Like a couple of the examples is like why are you doing this to me, or how to respond if they say they don't want treatment.
Why
stuff
are you
along.
punishing me? Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So he answers stuff about extended care at facilities, etc. But and he also, and I don't know this back end part, but he has a story of his own as well. So we'll let Adam take it away. Maybe give an introduction.
Well, before we get there, this book, I like how you put the chip on it.
That's my business card.
Yeah,
It's
that's nice.
a recovery chip. Yeah, I hope that you get one.
So AdamBanksRecovery.com, is that where people can get find the book?
Yes, it's available on Amazon. AdamBanksRecovery.com is my website.
Okay, and so it's navigating recovery, 12 lessons, and I want to emphasize this, 12 lessons to help families navigate intervention and recovery. So this book is primarily dedicated to families and loved ones.
Absolutely. So I am an interventionist. A big part of intervention is families just don't know what to do. They call up and there's a situation that's been brewing for 6 months, 5 years, something like that. And families are always to the end of their rope and they just don't know what to do. Doing intervention, I did realize that I get asked the exact same question at the exact same time, frequently by families. At the beginning of COVID, I started writing down every question that families asked me. And by the end of COVID, I had a book. So these, I try to answer just common questions. It seems like every family sort of, when somebody's going to rehab, they have questions. When somebody's a week into rehab, they have questions. When we're planning aftercare, the same questions come up. Part of my story is I used to be an airline pilot. Airline pilots apply process to everything. And that's exactly what I try to do with intervention. It's a chaotic situation, but if we apply process to it, the family can move through it, and hopefully the loved one moves through it.
That's interesting. I mean, because alluding to that, Ben and I field obviously basically all the calls here, and it's primarily family members, and we've noticed the same thing. And that's, just to let you know, in terms of the podcast, why we originally started this was primarily to help families and loved ones, because it was a lot of the same questions over and over and over. Rightfully so, because they're really going at this kind of blind. And I share with people all the time that, when somebody enters into recovery, a lot of the focus gets put on the addict themselves. How can the addict get better? What can we do for the addict to make them accomplish their sobriety, so on and so forth. And the families and loved ones are just kind of left out to figure it out, and it's unfortunate because they play a vital role in that person's recovery, but they probably don't even know that they play that role even prior them getting clean and sober, So yeah, if to the listeners, I would highly recommend picking up this book and reading it if you have somebody in your life that is, struggling. So, Adam, give us a little brief story about yourself, what kind of got you in this process, and then we'll go from there.
Well, everybody wants to hear the airline pilot stories.
So yeah, me too.
Is that where you want to go with this?
Yeah.
I don't want to go too far back. I grew up in a very small town in northern Wisconsin, a town of 1,800 people. My dad was the school district superintendent. He was also the mayor of this town. So I, of course, was the kid that tried to get away with everything. Grew up gay. Growing up gay in the 80s and 90s in northern Wisconsin was challenging. And how I dealt with it was repression. I just packed that away deep into my mind. Flying, I started flying in high school. And that really became kind of this way to get out of town. It was very driven. It created an identity for me, maybe the wrong identity, but it created an identity for me. In high school, I was the pilot, and that created a brand for me. Started drinking in high school. That's not unique. In northern Wisconsin, you drink in the woods. When I grew up, Walmart was about a 25-minute drive from us. So I grew up in northern Wisconsin. Right out of college, I started flying professionally for airline. This life of a pilot, you're on the road a lot. You're on the road probably over the weekends when you're a young pilot, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're off at home. So this sort of cyclical thing of working on the road and being home, it's a pretty lonely lifestyle. When you're in a hotel room, I always make the joke, for every one Paris overnight, there's 3 or 4 overnights in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So it's not necessarily that glamorous lifestyle that you think, especially when you're a young pilot. Drinking was a part of my story. That was nobody wants to think of their pilot with an alcohol problem. But sort of
Yeah,
I'm terrified already. I hate heights.
the cyclical nature of being on the road for 4 days, being at home for 4 days, kind of led for binge types drinking. My story continues. I was flying the morning of 9/11. I was captain of an airplane. I had to be grounded, and I internalized a lot of trauma that day. And this sort of was a perfect mix of being young, being gay, being 28. The airline transferred me into New York City, and that's where I sort of came out of the barn, came out of the closet, horse out of the barn. I think it's a common story. 28-year-olds land in New York City and find New York City very fun. And that's where some drugs started coming into the picture. And I just decided that I can't be a pilot anymore because of these random drug tests. So I quit a job. I resigned from a career. And then those random drug tests were probably the only thing that was sort of keeping me within guardrails. So once I resigned that job, it was off to the races, so to speak.
Wow. Literally quit your job to keep doing drugs.
To keep using, yeah, because those random drug tests were holding me back.
What were you doing for money? Like, how did you were living in New York City at the time?
Right? I did what I think another job that plays well with drug use is sales. So I went from flying and I started a sales job, which sales is fantastic for drug use because you're entertaining clients 2 or 3 nights a week. So
yeah. Well, that's an interesting little segue, and we won't spend a lot of time on this, but it's true. I mean, pharmaceutical sales, any sort of sales. I mean, you're responsible. They give you a budget. Take out these doctors, take out these attorneys, take out these people. No matter what you're selling, you always want to wine and dine people.
Somebody else's credit card, yeah.
So, just for my own selfish sake, the 9/11, what was that like when you were flying that day? How did that work? Did somebody just radio over to you, you got to land the plane, or what?
Air traffic control, yeah. I was in there. I took off from Newark, New Jersey, and you can actually see the Twin Towers when you could see the Twin Towers. So that morning when I taxied out, I saw the towers there. We took off, and about an hour into the flight, we were told to land by the air traffic control, which never happens. Air traffic control never tells you where to land an airplane, and we had no information. When we landed, the gate agents came on board and told us. And in a sort of crazy, to look back on it, that was after the first crash of the first airplane. At that time, the airline expected us to take off and go fly back. The airspace hadn't closed yet. And right during that time, when we were watching television, the second crash happened in the World Trade Tower. So very emotional for me. At the time, there was not this push for mental health. The airline did nothing for flight crew's mental health. Looking back on it, it was very traumatic for all of us, for lots of people in lots of different professions. I don't think we treated PTSD at the time like we do now. It's come so far with sort of destigmatizing mental health, destigmatizing seeking treatment. At the time, there wasn't any of that. It was just the airline expected us to go fly again.
All right, so at 28, you quit your job, went into sales, the wheels came off, you were off to the races. Take us through a minute version of what that was like, and then ultimately when enough was enough.
Well, New York City is fun. And drug use is fun. I look back and I had some great times. So take this young, traumatic experience. I was 28 years old, and you go to a gay club in New York City at the time, and it would be 5,000 hot guys with their shirts off dancing all night. That was a lot of fun. So I kind of was in that lifestyle for about 2 years. I say it was birds chirping that got me sober. When I was using cocaine, you're up all night long.
I hate the birds.
You hate the birds chirping
That's
to
the
today.
worst.
And you're literally sort of doing the last little bit of drugs, and you're wide awake, and you start hearing the birds chirping, and the guilt that I felt, the shame that I felt, and looking at my watch, and you would tell yourself crazy things like you had to be to work at 9 and it was 6:30 in the morning. You're like, if I sleep for 22 minutes, I'll be fine. And of course you can't get to sleep. So it was just that shame, knowing that I wasn't raised that way, knowing that I could do something more with my life, wanting to do something more. I got sober the old-fashioned way. The old-fashioned way, I thought I had a cocaine problem. So I went to Cocaine Anonymous meetings, tried to just stop the cocaine. I wanted to keep drinking because that wasn't a problem. It was just the cocaine. And it took me about 2 years. I was relapsing and trying to sort of get sober and relapsing. And finally I realized, it took me 2 years to realize this, that the only time that I buy cocaine is when I'm drunk.
Yeah, I cannot drink without doing coke.
No, it's like peanut butter and jelly, really.
Yeah.
It is.
They get pretty tied together at some point.
And if I'm drinking and I don't have cocaine, I am a miserable drunk to be around.
Did you get involved in any benzos at all?
I didn't. No. Just somebody asked me last night what drugs I did. I was like, I was classic Coke and beer.
Yeah.
Coke and warm beer.
Yeah. So in New York, yeah, that has to be. I mean, I've been to New York City twice, and man, I'll tell you, it's a completely different. I grew up in Pittsburgh area, so but I never had. I moved to Florida at 26 and never went to New York while I lived in Pennsylvania. Came to Florida, met my wife. She spent a couple years there, so we went there 1 year for Thanksgiving. And the Macy's Day Parade was going on. And I'm not good in that type of atmosphere, just people all over. I couldn't imagine living there, and she loved it. And you know what's interesting? And this has nothing to do with recovery, but I just find this interesting. So me and my wife, now we live out west in kind of West Florida,
Alligator country.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, essentially.
I assume anything
Yeah,
in Florida
and
has alligators.
still to this day, if I told her, hey, listen, we're going to pack up and move to New York City, she would go in a heartbeat, right? And she tells me that she never felt safer in New York City, or she felt the safest living in New York City than where we live now. And I'm like, how is that even possible?
Well, do you read the newspaper about what happens in Florida kind of on a day-to-day basis?
No.
Okay.
Home of the Florida man.
I get it, but it's like New York, I just see there's people all over the place, you're 5 foot nothing, how do you feel safer there? I don't know. I just find it interesting. But.
Well, I'm kind of opposite of that. I grew up, like I said, in this town in northern Wisconsin, and the country roads there's nobody on the roads and it's dark.
Yeah, that's how I grew up. Yeah.
If you live in New York City, you need some streetlights, you need some noise, you need the hum of the city to kind of. It feels very uncomfortable for me now when I'm sort of in the country.
Now you live Long Island, right?
Close by, yep.
Yeah. So is that considered New York City? I don't know.
The inner part of Long Island would be, yeah. That's Queens, but then as you go out further, it becomes more remote. And then everybody knows the Hamptons, the very.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Very tip of Long Island. I can't afford the Hamptons.
Maybe one day. If people go buy your book, maybe, right?
I think I sell it for $5. I think I sell it for the printing cost. So that's not going to work either.
Oh, there you go. And the book is cheap. So go buy the book, would you? All right. So let's get into your sobriety. When did that happen? And we'll go from there.
So about 32, I didn't go to rehab. I did it, like I said, the old fashioned way of going to AA meetings. New York City has fantastic recovery. There's, I think it's 2,000 AA meetings a week in New York City. You can find sort of whatever your posse is. At the time I was 32-year-old young gay guy, and there's lots of meetings with 32-year-old young gay guys in it. So it was easy to sort of find a tribe and run in. I had a great time in early recovery, like just meeting new people and going to these meetings. And Thursday night was one meeting. Saturday morning was another meeting. The Saturday morning meeting, there was 200 people in the meeting. So it was kind of a fun experience. I'm still good friends with those people. I call them my litter mates, the people that I was in early recovery with. They're to this day, they're some of my best friends. I had some success then. Once I got sober, I started a company with another alcoholic, of course, because that's what you do with sort of a boundaryless lifestyle.
Yep.
So started a company in healthcare, and we grew that pretty large. It was physical therapy. He was an orthopedic doctor, and we built a physical therapy and orthopedic practice, and ended up selling that to United Healthcare. So,
oh, nice.
There was a good turnaround in there.
How old were you when that happened?
I was right around 40.
Okay.
Oh, and I adopted 2 kids in there too. So,
Really?
Sheesh. There's a lot going on here.
well, there's this saying in the promises of AA, life beyond your wildest dreams. It doesn't say a good life beyond your wildest dreams, but it says a life beyond your wildest dreams. And if you would have taken this kid in northern Wisconsin and told him you're going to adopt 2 kids from Columbia, not the University of Columbia, but the country Columbia.
Yeah.
I don't speak any Spanish. I adopted 2 kids from Colombia. I've got a Puerto Rican partner, sold the company to United Healthcare. Like this, all this stuff was...
This is just so par for the course with what alcoholics and drug addicts are capable of.
We are the smartest people.
I tell people all the time, it's like a superpower. If we learn how to harness what we have going on internally and can utilize that drive and motivation, like the things that we accomplish it's pretty insane.
Well, look at you two.
Yeah. I mean, we have come from nothing to something, I suppose.
It's when I do an intervention, a first call from a family, almost 100% of the times the family says he or she is the smartest person that they know.
Yes.
And I kind of wait for that moment. And it's almost across the board that they always describe the person that's using as the smartest person they know.
I like that you brought that up too, because I, like, through my 12-step fellowship and here, I'll often tell our clients, for instance, or my sponsees, I give them a good idea of how intelligent Bill W. was, and he couldn't think his way out of it. I'm like, Bill W. is much smarter than me, had a much higher IQ than I did, and that guy couldn't think his way out of it. I feel like it's the one thing that I really needed help with in life. Don't get me wrong, I need help with other things, but the thing where I was completely defeated and had to throw in the towel and just say, somebody else give me a plan and somebody else help me. Beyond that, I feel like we can accomplish just about any other challenge in life with ease, really, if we just put some effort.
Well, you see it with very dedicated professionals. Lawyers have the highest incidence of addiction. You have to be very intelligent to perform at your law firm and maintain your addiction. That's how smart somebody is.
Lawyers are the worst to try to help too. They really are. Like, it probably takes, on average, I would tell you, if a lawyer is here for 120 days, it probably takes us 2 months just to get them to, start buying into some of the concepts, because they are so analytical. Like, that is their job, to literally argue every single point.
Every word in the big book.
Yeah. Yeah. And the process is so counterintuitive to common sense, if you will, reason. There's so much that goes against the grain when getting sober or in early recovery.
We had a lawyer here not long ago, and he did great.
He very analytical, though. He was awesome. Yeah. No, I agree with you. Also from New York, too. Yeah. So,
Adam, did you ever go back to flying or no?
I have gone back to flying. I'm involved in it's called the HIMSS program. That's the program to return pilots to flying. It's a very intense program. It's recovery regulated by the federal government. So it's random drug testing. You have to go through the pilot programs of group programs, psychiatrists, psychologists, and right now I don't have my certification. I'm about to get it, and I'll go back to flying.
Okay.
A little bit.
You'll go back to flying because you want to, not because you have to.
Yeah,
That's a good place to be.
fantastic skill.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into more of the your services and what you offer, and kind of, some of the pain points that you see with families and loved ones and stuff like that. Because a primary listener base of this podcast, I think, is families and loved ones. So, when did you decide to start, like, the intervention process and get certified and all that? Like, what was your drive for that?
It was after selling the company to United. I was 40 years old, and I had to figure out something else. So I sort of had to remake myself, and that's when I transitioned into working with a mental health company, and sort of broke off just working with addiction because that was a passion of mine. You said it right. Families, when they call me up, they just don't know what to do. They don't know what the answer is. It's unfortunate. Families call interventionists too late. I wish the families would reach out a year earlier, 2 years earlier. We know that addiction is a progressive disease, and when people call an interventionist, we're at the wheels have fallen off the wagon. Mm-hmm. There's been a major event, and if we could have intervened, if we could have talked to that person earlier, we might have been able to avoid those consequences. I look back at my own story. Somebody could have intervened on me when I was 16. Somebody could have intervened on me when I was 18. Many times in my 20s, somebody could have intervened on me, and that never happened. I was 30 years old and had to figure it out on my own. I don't remember one person pulling me aside and saying, "Hey, let's talk about this." So I promote early intervention. The sooner that we can start talking to somebody, get that conversation going with the addicted person, let's get involved before the situation gets bad. The situation always gets worse, right?
What does that look like when like a parent calls you or something? What's the process look like from the beginning stages?
I find it amazing the change that one phone call makes. And often for me, the phone call often comes from a sibling of the addicted person, 35, 40 years old. Something's been hidden for many years. And then all of a sudden, if there's a strong sister involved, she always gets the guy into rehab, her brother. Like, that guy doesn't stand a chance. She grabs him by the ear. So the first phone call is so important because that, I hate to be esoteric, but the butterfly effect, right? So once we see that somebody call out, ask for help, we start seeing change happen. The first thing that we do with intervention, it's a process. Intervention is not, if you watch that television show, it ain't like that. It never is like that. I tell people you're hiring a consultant for a period of time. I can't tell you what the period of time is going to be. Typically, I'm involved with a family for 30 to 90 days. We start off with just figuring out how much rehab is going to cost. People always ask me, does everybody need to go to rehab? Absolutely not. But by the time you call an interventionist, usually that person has to go to rehab. Usually the situation is so bad that we have to stabilize it with inpatient treatment. So we start off always with the insurance card. The back of the insurance card, we figure out how much treatment is going to cost. Once we choose a treatment center, that's another magic moment. The individual always goes to the treatment center that the family picks. So once we pick a treatment center and we start putting that energy out there, we're again, this is too esoteric, but it happens every time. Once we choose a treatment center, make that plan, that's what happens. And then a lot of intervention is just working with the family. We don't just go into a meeting with somebody blind. I wouldn't do that. We're going to have some prep meetings. We always used to think we had to do this in person. We're doing it over Zoom now. And Zoom is fantastic for this process, because we've got family coming in, Zoom meetings from London, somebody's in San Francisco, the family can come together on this project and all work together. So Zoom has been a real unexpected but fantastic addition to intervention process.
The process of the intervention, it sounds like, if you were to give a percentage, how much of it is family versus actual interaction with the addict themselves?
Most of it is family, and family loosely defined as chosen family, friends. We all have different versions of what family is. It takes a push. Most, you guys can answer this. What percentage of people are pushed into recovery? I think just about 100%. There's somebody behind the scenes saying you need to go. And then the percentage that you're looking for is
Yeah, well, I think you pretty much just answered it. I mean, where I was going with that is that this just shows the exact amount of family involvement. Because if the family didn't play a key role in their loved one's addiction, the intervention would be 90% with the addict themselves, 10% with the families. But it's flip-flopped, I think. 90% of our conversations are going to happen with the family. We're going to come up with a plan. We're going to have multiple conversations. We're going to have all of our ducks in a row. We're going to have the treatment center picked out. We're going to have all the financials in line. We're going to have a game plan for, okay, if this person says no, what are we going to do? If they say yes, what are we going to do? We're going to have answers for questions that they potentially will ask, so on and so forth. That way, when it comes time to approach the addict, all those bases are covered. And that's at least for me, and I know Ben does the same. I tell parents all the time, and loved ones, whoever it is, spouses, we need to get all this stuff done first. We need to know what treatment center they're going to go to. How long are they expected to be there? How much money is it going to cost? The stuff with employment, all these things. Let's try and have as many answers as possible, because when we go to that person and say, hey, look, it's time to go to treatment, they're going to come up with all of these excuses, and we need to have the answers for them locked and ready. Like, that way, it's just a matter of, as a matter of fact, Ben, here's your plane ticket.
Yep.
We already got your plane ticket, and the Uber's going to be here in 45 minutes. Now, in a perfect world, hopefully that's how it works. It doesn't always work that way. Things kind of get derailed. But point is that family involvement with this is key.
And two, somebody saying no is not necessarily a failure. It just didn't happen that day. And that is where someone like Adam or ourselves come in. Because I always explain to families, do you want it to go perfectly? And hopefully you set this up, everything just falls in line, ducks in a row, and they're like, yep, let's go. But what we're good at is helping people navigate what comes. We have to be really good at changing direction, having a quick answer, and knowing what to do next. And that's why it's so important to bring professionals into it, because no yesterday doesn't mean no today. And essentially kind of the way that I look at it, going back to your original question a couple minutes ago, families tend to think that they've got these guardrails in place and they're keeping their addict, their loved one, safe. But in reality, these guardrails are actually keeping them in their addiction. So what you're doing is actually telling them, get rid of the guardrails. And they're like, oh my God, they're going to get hurt. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. They're going to go to jail. And those fears need to come up for the addict. And sometimes, hopefully not like Adam was saying before, sometimes consequences are necessary to be a catalyst to them saying yes. So it's also about trusting the process as well, where if we, as family and loved ones, a lot of times if they say no and we step out of the way, yes will be coming in the next week.
It's usually
or
pretty
month.
quickly after that.
Exactly. We just got to get out of the way.
Yep. I say intervention is you create a plan. You're simply inviting the addicted person to be a part of that plan. If they say no today, that plan is still in place. We tell a person, listen, I understand you're not ready for this plan today, but the family's ready for it. The plan's in place. The day that you're ready for it, all the work that we put into planning that, it's all there. So that opportunity is available to them. A whole lot of people say no on an intervention. I kind of joke the timeline of intervention is very artificial. The family has chosen 9:30 Saturday morning, we're going to do this intervention. Well, the addicted person did not wake up that morning expecting to go to treatment that day.
Yeah.
So the family puts a lot of energy into it. If we take the energy away from, we have to have success on this day. We talk about the plan with the individual. We invite them to be a part of that plan. And to your point, a whole lot of people say no on the first day of an intervention. Most people come into accepting that plan a few days later.
I love the way you just broke that down. It's almost like saying to the family, like, well, you don't want to choose to be part of the plan. We're going to continue to execute our plan. And that's that. And they're like, what? The show's going on without me?
You have to show them that the show's going on without them.
Yeah, that very well said.
What are some of the main questions that you get from families and loved ones that you find answering a lot of, in this intervention process?
The most common question that you get, I think families often feel like they're the only one. And I think that they're concerned that they're the only ones dealing with this. And the sort of the shame, the protection that has gone on for years around that. They're often isolated. The conversations with me, you hate to laugh at other people's situations, but you've heard the same thing many times, and to be able to help somebody understand that they're not alone in this and to start connecting them to other people that are in the exact same situation. And I try to do that a lot. I have families that are 1 week, 1 month ahead of that first phone call. And I oftentimes try to introduce those families so they can see what life is going to be like a week from now or a month from now. Those people are very influential in that person that's making that first phone call.
Let me ask you this real quick, too. It's funny because, a lot of the times families go into it to help the addict loved one. Obviously, that's like the initial goal. But knowing you, I also know that you've worked with families for long periods of time. And I feel like, I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like they stick around and keep doing work with you because they see the value in it for themselves as well. If you want to elaborate on that. Yeah.
Back to sort of the first phone call, what we're doing is we're not doing one thing in a moment of time. We have to create a plan that is 90 days. I'm 16 years sober. I still go to AA meetings. We're talking about a lifetime change for somebody. The first sort of micro process, and I start talking about it on day one, families are very worried about getting their loved one into rehab. That's all they care about. Well, the most important thing is planning day 28, day 29, discharge. So the very first phone call that we're talking about, I'm already worried about what the person's going to do on the day after they leave treatment. And we have to have a plan in place for that. Treatment needs to be, well, you guys do 120 days here, right?
Mm-hmm. Try to, yeah.
Yeah. Length of time is the most, correlates to the success the most. So early on, I want families to be planning 90 days of treatment. Not 90 days of inpatient treatment necessarily. There's always step downs in that. But if we can come up with a 90-day plan, a 6-month plan for that person, they'll have lots of success.
And that too comes back to like this process where they might say no up front. That goes with length of stay as well. Obviously all of us sitting here know in most cases, the longer the better, 120 days, 6 months, whatever it's going to take somebody. But there are cases too where we get somebody just to agree to 30 days because that's what they're willing to do. And you kind of meet them where they're at because at least, for our program, I always have the confidence. I would say 95% of our clients that agree to 30 days end up staying the 120.
Well, when you're doing an intervention, you can't tell somebody, we've got a 120-day plan for you.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of an onion. The family's got to come up with a plan and then sort of reveal that plan as the person gets a little further away from their addiction.
Yeah, don't don't get the cart ahead of the horse.
Yeah.
Well, I tell the families, don't even, if they start talking about length of time and stuff like that, you divert. Like, don't even get involved in that. Let us handle that, because, I mean, you tell somebody, hey, we're shipping you off to wherever for 4 months. We'll see you when you get back.
Nobody's going to go.
Forget it. They're like, screw you. I mean, it's a very tedious process, but in the end, like, it's not that difficult. I think where families screw this up the most is they try and do a lot of the legwork themselves. They feel like they can fix the situation. They feel like they can impose their wants, their needs, and it doesn't generally work that way. You need somebody like us who are really unbiased. We kind of know. And the good thing is, and let's talk about this for a minute, how like our experiences with being sober people, clean, off of drugs and alcohol between the three of us here, we got 16 years and both of us at 13 years. I'm not good at math, but it's somewhere around 45 years of continuous sobriety, free of any and all mood and mind altering substances. People want to hear that, especially the addict themselves. If I get parents on the phone, I know for certain you're not going to get anywhere with them. They're like, okay, I'm going to talk to him and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I always say, you're not going to do anything but just get them on the phone with me. Let me be the one talking, because I have a much better chance of getting them to commit to doing something, because I'm going to talk from my own experience too. Not right out of the gate, but I'm going to go through the whole bonding and rapport, painful, kind of the sales aspect of it, but we're selling a lifestyle change, and we live it. We've gone through it. We've been there. We've been through this whole process. So, and I think parents like to hear that because it gives them the opportunity to just breathe a little bit too. And they can understand, oh, I don't have to do this alone. And, oh, by the way, I've been, for lack of a better term, pardon my French, fucking this up the whole time. I've actually made the process worse. So going back to your original, what you said way in the beginning of this episode, I wish this phone call started way before it actually, because if somebody reaches out to any of us at first signs of something, we might not get they may not go to treatment right now, but we're going to direct you and we're going to help you navigate this situation. I say navigate the ever-changing landscape of addiction. It's always different. Certain situations arise and, stuff like that. And we're able to help you navigate that. Don't do it on your own. So I don't know. What do you think about that, Ben?
You're using the title of my book, so it's...
Oh, I am.
I appreciate the...
That's funny. Yeah. Maybe I got it from you. I don't know. Maybe I saw the book sitting downstairs and I'm like, oh, navigating. Fun fact, I hate flying, by the way. Absolutely hate it.
Which part?
All of it.
What, the turbulence, the
it's
loss
you know
of
what it
control?
is? It's the lack of control.
Would you be a good pilot? Like, should we trust you in control of the airplane?
Me?
Yeah.
At this stage, no.
And so,
Yeah.
So the guys up front, the guys and gals up front, they've...
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I see what you did there. You flipped the script on it. Okay, so if you want control, go ahead, Tom. Take control.
Go.
Yeah. No, thank you. No, that's a good point. But I every time I go, and I don't fly very often, maybe once a year, every time I get ready to go on the plane or whatever, the day before, I'm always watching YouTube videos on like the how safe flying is, because I need that reinforcement that like I wish I could take Xanax, because I would definitely be doing that, but I can't. Anyways, sorry, that was off topic. Ben, do you have anything else?
I don't. I'd love to get you back on. I feel like there's so many directions we could go, especially with your knowledge base and experience too. You know, for me at least, like everyone on the show knows I'm an AA guy through and through, 12-step. Like I'd love to dig more into that. In New York, I'm so familiar with Florida. There's just, it's New York's like another culture of AA, so to speak. Not good, bad, nor indifferent. Like it's just different than here from what I understand, and I don't know, man. I'd like to jump into some of that at some point and just, yeah, we have a lot in common too. We really do.
How often are you down here?
It's winter up in Long Island right now, so it's getting dark at 3:00. So as often as I can, I would come to Florida.
Do you have a place down here or no?
No.
Oh, you're not.
No, I'm not that guy. In Boca?
Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah. Well,
Palm Beach Island.
I don't know.
That's a dream. Like we're starting to talk about retirement, my partner and I. So,
how old are you?
I'm 49. You start talking about like what's.
Yeah, okay.
You start planning
guess.
like at 49. You kind of see the end of the road, so you gotta kind of.
Sheesh.
Yeah, we're getting close.
We're almost
the end
there.
of the road.
Hey, Ben and I are born same day, same year.
Didn't know that.
April 7th, 1984. So we're 39. Soon to be 40.
Oh, that's a big cornerstone too.
Yeah.
When's your birthday?
June. I'm a Gemini. You got to give you the year? Well, I just gave you my age, 74.
So you're going to be 50 in June.
That comes after 49, yeah. You said you weren't good at math.
Yeah, no, that was good. I'm glad you clarified that.
I like this. We could keep going. Like you're flipping the script on him with the flight thing.
Let me ask you one more thing. Have you ever had any close calls flying?
Nothing.
Really?
Not a thing.
What
People
about
always
like
ask that.
what about like the weird noises and stuff you always hear?
Like the
Yeah, all that stuff.
That's just little hydraulic actuators doing their thing. So
a guy told me once that when you're landing a plane, it's a controlled crash. Is that accurate?
that's you hear that, but no, it's probably more controlled than that. But that's what pilots do day in and day out. So
and you use the most fuel taking off than you do the whole entire. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's
Let me ask this.
full thrust on the way out.
Is it really oxygen coming out if you have to put that little mask on?
Yes, some oxygen, yeah.
So, because I'm really hoping, like, if I'm going down, like it's nitrous or something.
Right. Yeah, like laughing gas or something.
I don't think they thought of that, but
all right, I'll have to get in touch with them.
I don't know how effective that would be. Like,
A friend of ours, Ben and I, his name's Dr. Stu. He's one of the docs down here at JFK. Did you know this, Ben? He's actually a pilot.
I did not know that.
And he's flying he flies the little,
Cessnas?
Yeah,
Is that what they're called?
airplanes.
Cessnas?
yeah. And he's been trying to get me to go up with him. I'm like, hell no.
I think you should do it. Maybe they'll get you over he'll actually let you fly the airplane. He'll give you the controls.
Yeah, every Florida man flies one of them little tiny planes. I read about them crashing in the paper all the time.
That's exactly why I haven't done it, because you always hear about them crashing.
The odds are in your favor. You're playing an odds game, but they're in your favor.
And them little things are like lawnmowers in the sky. I don't know.
Yeah, like
my
little
lawnmower
go-karts.
goes out all the time. So
Yeah.
They do sound like lawnmowers in the sky.
All right. Well, this was fun, Adam. Okay. So again, Navigating Recovery Ground School, 12 lessons to help families navigate intervention and recovery. They can find this at adambanksrecovery.com. Is that accurate?
That's it. That's right.
Anywhere else they can find you or no?
I think that's the best place to go.
Okay, cool. They could pick this book up for, sounds like $5 or a little
Just
bit.
the printing cost.
Sheesh. You can't get a Starbucks coffee for that anymore. That's crazy.
Well, you guys can do me the favor and buy 2 copies.
Okay.
Put $10 in my pocket. No.
right
Yeah,
on.
there you go. Get you to a Starbucks. All right. That is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, it's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.